This is B.E.P. Welcome to this edition of B.E.P., where we are always so excited to introduce you to our amazing guests who come from, oh my goodness, so many diverse walks of life. They bring very different beliefs, experiences, and passions to B.E.P. and so generously share their stories with you, their experiences and passions to inspire, to motivate, to educate, sometimes entertain. We've never had an exception, and today is also no exception to that. So our very special guest today, who's going to be talking about something that is, well, very, very necessary and powerful for all people, is Cheyenne M'Dee. So please welcome today's guest. There you are, Cheyenne. Welcome to B.E.P.
Thank you for having me, Beth.
Such a pleasure, such a pleasure. I am really curious about where this is going to go. And I'll explain why in just a little bit. But just to give you, to give our audience a little bit of a sense of who you are and what you do, my goodness, what aren't you doing these days? You are an award-winning speaker, an author, a true advocate, a consultant, a strategist. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say from what I've learned about you is that you are a very colorful storyteller.
Very much so. That's how a lot of people would characterize the way that I speak. So,
and I'm hearing that you have that Southern sass that that might come through in the talk.
Absolutely. I'm born and raised in Texas, and it definitely comes through. I have a lot of analogies that are Southern laced because I am a true Southern belle with a sailor's tongue. So, you either love it or you don't, but no matter what, there's going to be a good takeaway from it.
There you go. There you go. And you said that with great pride and conviction and confidence. And what I love about that is that you are honoring your own authenticity. And that is always the best way to introduce yourself and come across to others. So today I'm going to ask you to talk to us a little bit about what you've written about in two books that have already been published. One is called Elevation, Evolution. Mm-hmm. The first one was called Blazing the Trail. And I think there's a similarity between them from what I've read. It's about learned helplessness and the kind of generational things that we take along with us. I'm going to ask you, I don't want to get into your talk too much. I want to hear it directly from you about how we can't erase the pain, but how we can use it to transform us. And to become better and to really find true freedom. Now, I know that you typically work more with women, but I want to be very clear that this is for men as well.
Absolutely. We're never going to turn somebody down. Anyone who needs help or feels stuck, anyone who feels hopeless, helpless, that feels that they're kind of trapped in their current situation, that this would help them as well. So the nonprofit side of my company, because I have a nonprofit as well, that raises the money specifically for the domestic violence victims and survivors to help get them out. And they are typically women, but we have had some men who have reached out, but typically that is a female, heavily female space. But as far as our coaching clients, I've had some men that come through, but we do keep anonymous because, just for, their privacy. So.
Sure. I get that. And saying that it's heavily weighted on the woman's side, that's not necessarily to say that men aren't victims of abuse. They are just likely to come forward because there's a different level of embarrassment or shame that goes like, does he feel he's perceived as weak if he's been abused?
That and also with ours, what we have found is that the scholarship money that we raise, the reason that it's typically going towards women is if you think about our society as a whole, it's a patriarchal society where, generally speaking, in these situations, there's a male domination over the control of finances. And so what we typically see, especially with our victims, and even if it is a same-sex couple where you have like two men or whatever, we want to make sure that our victim understands that you don't have to have control over your finances. What we have is we have scholarship money. So that's what our events are for. We do all of our events solely to raise the scholarship money so that we have funds available to get them into the coaching program so that we can help them get into the correct mindset so that once they do try to remove themselves from the situation, they don't get pulled back in, because that's what happens typically. It's what happened to me specifically. I'm a multiple offender, and I joke about it now, but that is what happened to me. I was a repeat offender where I kept going back and back into current situation. I went back not just to the same person, but I turned around and married another man that was exactly the same way. So
it's kind of what you know, right? It's
your comfort level. It's what you're comfortable with. As crazy as that sounds for a lot of people, what your comfort home is, what your emotional home is, even if it's chaotic or crazy or a hot mess, so to speak, it is where you want to be, and it's what you know.
It's what you know.
It's where you thrive.
Yeah.
So it may not be a healthy situation, but it is what it is.
It's what you know. It's what you know.
That's why we've set up that so that they can have the support needed, go through our program. And there's a membership with it. And with that along, once they graduate from the actual coaching program, then they become, think of it kind of like a sorority or even like AA, where you have a mentor. You become a big sister, for the next one. So that way you're now mentoring the next group that's coming up. You're assigned a little sis, so to speak, so that it's not just, so they don't just have me to talk to or the group time to talk to, because sometimes it could be in the middle of the night where you're frantic and you think, oh my gosh, I can't make it. I can't do this. And I just have to go back because I don't know what else to do. I'm not going to make it on my own. I'm not good enough to make it on my own. I can't survive on my own. I can't do this. And then, you go back.
Yeah.
And
we hear the expression, the enemy you know is better than the enemy you don't know. It's
it is exactly that situation. Yeah. And so that's why it's set up the way that it is. So it's an ongoing process, and you can continue to do that long after you've gotten unstuck, but you can continue to grow and grow. That's the whole point of elevation evolution, is that you're always growing, because if you're not growing, you're dying.
You're dying, right? Cheyenne, can I ask you, I know that you are an award-winning speaker. May I ask you right now to share, when you are speaking, what the message is that you're delivering? Can I ask you to do that now?
Yeah, I can go ahead and give a bit of the speech if you'd like me to.
Sure, I would love that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So here now, Cheyenne M'Dee.
Thank you. All right. Well, how many of you would like to wake up every morning so empowered, so passionate that you jump out of bed, excited to take on the day? I want you to tap yourself and say, I would. I didn't feel that from you. One more time. I want you to tap yourself and say, I would. All right. So as I've already introduced, I told you that I live beyond that of a victim. I also live beyond that of a survivor. I live at an elevated level. You see, you heard some of my story, and you know that I had handed over my power, body, mind, finances, my choices, my freedom. You see, I was stuck, and that situation is kind of hopeless. Y'all ever felt that way? Well, my moment of clarity, it's pretty multifaceted. You see, it wasn't just one experience, one mentor that made me realize. It has been an ongoing process of growth, a true elevation evolution. Have y'all ever been to a circus? Well, I have quite a few times, really. And those human acts, I mean, they're great, except for the clowns, but they fail to compare to animals. And the showstopper for me, elephants. You know, a lot of folks are really, really afraid of these gentle giants, but I can appreciate them for what they are and what they represent to me. You know, on the outside, they're armored by this tough, thick skin, and they're really well armed by these mighty tusks. But on the inside, raw vulnerability. Did you know that elephants are one of the few animals that are capable of displaying emotional intelligence? And just like us, an elephant's empathy can take you from being the helper to the helpless. So I was at the circus, and while passing the time before the big show, I had noticed that the elephants were only secured with a small rope, and it was tied around just one ankle. It's kind of weird, right? I mean, they can just break free because they are definitely strong enough. So I had to ask, and I was told that it's really about the size of the rope. You see, they use the same size of rope to secure an elephant through their entire lifetime. And when they're babies, the elephants are way too small to break free from that rope. So they grow up being conditioned to believe that the rope is stronger than they are. And as adults, they believe it is too strong. So what do? They give up. They just feel hopeless. They're stuck. You know, it's called learned helplessness. And learned helplessness occurs when you are conditioned to anticipate pain or failure with no way out. You are stuck. It is hopeless. And it is that very fixed mindset that stunts your growth. You have to release this limiting belief in order to create the breakthrough that is necessary to achieve all that you were meant to. That means your ambitions, your dreams, and your life's purpose. So tell me, when y'all are at home, do y'all have thermostat wars? We do. And I like mine set around 72 degrees. Now, I know for some of you, especially my Southerners out there, y'all are thinking, dang, that girl must be crazy to keep it so warm, right? But listen, that's where I am most comfortable. So I'm going to ask you, what would happen if I was to lower it to, say, I don't know, 68 degrees? Now, besides my kids feeling the absolute relief because they are not having to rub ice cubes all over their skin, at first, I am going to be uncomfortable. However, I'm going to acclimate because my new normal is going to then be 68 degrees. And it works the other way as well. So if I was to increase my comfort resting level of 72 degrees to, say, 76 degrees, I'm going to be uncomfortable, right? And again, I would eventually acclimate, and my new resting comfort level is going to be 76 degrees. Now, y'all, I can continue to play this game over and over at the risk of shooting up my electric bill, but the result is going to always be the same. I will acclimate, and I will have a new comfort level. So this comfort level, think of it as your emotional home. It's where you kind of like to be. Changes bring discomfort. And you know, we always like to say, oh, it's the outside world that's making me feel this way. No, that ain't it. We use the outside world to go back to our emotional home. This becomes our habit. It is our pattern. Now listen, y'all, breakthroughs happen when you realize that the impossible is in fact possible. So it's when you pick yourself up, put your big girl panties on, and take massive, decisive action. You know why? Because breakthroughs are transformations. Now, I know you've heard it before. I said it earlier even. If you're not growing, you're what? You're dying. Listen, y'all, I do not have a death wish. I am going to keep growing. It is a continuous learning and going to the next level. This is where frameworks come into play. Now, someone who has already been successful doing what you want to do, they show you the path, right? It's the same one that they travel to do the exact same thing that you're wanting to do. So what could possibly stop you? Let me tell you, there's one word. You. Crazy, right? Humans have this amazing ability to talk themselves out of literally almost anything. So, know your problem. Change your patterns. Stay resourceful. Follow the framework. So y'all, when I was little, I used to love to read books. And one of my favorite books that I read was Aesop's Fables. You know, and one of the favorite ones in there was about a crow. Now, this little fella was feeling rather parched. And as he was carrying along, he came across a pitcher. But it wasn't just an ordinary pitcher. This one had a small amount of water. So he puts his beak into the mouth of the pitcher. But what do you think happened? Couldn't reach the water. So he tried and tried and tried, completely unsuccessful at accomplishing his goal. At this point, he sat and he thought. He really did not want to stay in his current situation. And there had to be a way. I mean, what could he do? And then he had it. Pebbles. He started picking them up one by one. He dropped those pebbles into that pitcher. And as he did, that water level started inching its way up to the top of the pitcher. And the crow was able to quench his thirst. Now, our crow clearly identified his problem, his current situation. He changed his patterns because he was resourceful. The crow identified a framework that would give him that desired result. Arthur C. Brooks says that the key to build new habits of thinking. Dan Brown said, sometimes a change of perspective is all it takes to see the light. But I like to say, thoughts create emotions that generate actions, producing results. And the framework that I use is STEER. Step 1, situations. Y'all, these are the circumstances that you are currently experiencing. You want to think of these as those tangible facts that you literally cannot control in this world. Listen, no one has control over every single aspect of your life. Do you know what happens to somebody if you try to focus on trying to control something that is not yours to control? You become narrow-minded and you close yourself off to opportunities that could probably serve you in a much better capacity than what you are doing right now. So acknowledge that situation that you cannot control in your world. Step 2, your thoughts. These are those sentences that we tell ourselves in our minds. It's your driving force that determines how you're going to feel about an experience. You know what? Your thoughts create your reality. And at the end of the day, they are literally the figments of your imagination. They are the narratives that you continue to spin in your minds. So let's say that you have a situation. It's not really what you want. It's pretty easy to create a narrative of false statements where you focus on the problem at hand rather than the potential solution to it. And just like those elephants we were talking about, whatever we repeatedly think and we say and we believe, man, when we validate them by creating a new situation and then building a habit, it's a pattern, y'all. Step 3, your emotions. You know what emotions are? Literally vibrations in your body. It's how you feel about your thoughts, and they manifest your actions. That new habit is going to grow and it's going to define you. So, if you develop this belief that you're a failure, you're going to view every single mistake as proof that you were literally a damn failure. And even, let's just say that you are successful at something. Guess what you're going to do? You're still going to identify as a failure who just happened to get lucky, because this becomes your reality. Now listen, all feelings matter, including the negative ones. Those negative feelings, they are just as much a part of your full human experience as the positive ones. So take notice of them, accept them, honor them as valid creations of your thoughts. Just don't dwell on them. So step 4, these are your actions. This is what you do or do not do. Y'all ever come across an opportunity but you chose to do nothing about it? Now, regardless of the reason that you tell yourself, your inactivity leaves you dead in the water, and you are doomed to repeat your pattern over and over again. Listen, y'all, that is not elevation. It is not growth. This is decay. Now, I want you to write this down. Hesitation is the cessation of elevation. I'm going to say it one more time for you. Hesitation is the cessation of elevation. Y'all got to take some decisive, massive action. Know what result you want. Know your purpose. Have a plan of action. If you do not, You will not eliminate what is not working, and you will not establish what does. It is the only way to determine what is possible right now and get you one level closer to achieving your desired outcome. This is your elevation evolution. Step 5, your results. Listen, your results, those are the effects of your actions or the lack thereof. If you don't do anything about your current situation, you're going to remain stuck, right? Because nothing, well, it yields nothing. No one said change is easy. No one. And without it, you cannot move forward. No one and nothing has the ability to control that for you unless you choose to give them your power, your free will. So instead, make that decision to take action. And be okay with getting uncomfortable, knowing that you are going to acclimate. That decisive, massive action, this is what will give you a new result and shift you from being stuck. Listen, even if it's not the result that you were aiming for, guess what? It is useful because failure is a necessary part of that learning process. This is what allows us to reassess our strategies and try new approaches. Be patient with your strategies and yourself and don't give up on your goals. If you are persistent and you have a willingness to learn from your mistakes, you can achieve the results that you really desire. Going from a problem-based thought to a solution-based one can change the trajectory of your path. It becomes a power statement. This is that one sentence that really changes your life. And it is different for every single person. But what it does, it's always the same. It kind of reminds us that we were born to do something great with our lives. I had this amazing opportunity to hear Ed Milet speak live at a conference where he had said something that really struck me like lightning to the core. He said, the most insidious, neglectful form of child abuse is not pursuing your passion, your dreams, and your potential. I was not alone, y'all. All 5,000 people felt it too. And there was this collective gasp that sounded like the air had been sucked from the room. And at first, I was slightly offended. I mean, I know I am a damn good mother, and I would give anything for my kids. But after a moment, man, this hit me. We want our children to believe that they are capable of anything, right? They should live their life to the fullest. And we try to instill in them that nothing worth having comes easily. Hard work pays off. We want our kids to do as we say, not as we do, right? So hypocritical. And I was so guilty. This one statement, this is my power statement. This has played in the back of my mind to push me even when times are tough. Or if my support system, if it ain't that strong, it reminds me that I need to be the best version of myself in order to better serve me, those who are closest and dearest to me, my community, my people, and most importantly, y'all, my kids. My power statement has changed the trajectory of my life, and you're just going to do the same for you. You know, sometimes we don't mean it, but those old habits, they start to rear their ugly heads, and they can be hard to break. There's a pattern. And we've all developed patterns, many of them in our lives. Knowing your pattern, that is your first step to having a breakthrough. So track them. When you've recognized you've got a pattern, you are able to escape that madness before it escalates to a full-blown spiral. So I'm sure you have people in your life that have had some slightly addictive tendencies, you know, like maybe some nail biting or cravings for sugar. Many times they've tried and they try to curb it. Many times they fall short. Yeah. Well, my grandma, she was a smoker. The danger was real, y'all, and I was on a quest to rescue her. My brother and I, we even saved our money to buy her one of those battery-operated, no-smoking, talking ashtrays for Christmas. And that way, whenever she decided to smoke, it would go and start yelling, "No smoking!" Now, of course, she laughed and she thanked us because she's a good Southern woman. Honestly, this is not a practical method. However, my grandmother was committed to finding something that would help her. And she had heard from dear Abby about a little trick that used to stop cravings, and it involved wearing a rubber band that was snug on your wrist. Now, when she felt this craving come on, she would holler out, "No smoking," and she'd pop herself with that rubber band. That image stuck with me throughout my life. You know, it's the whole idea of stopping a negative thought and replacing it with a positive one using a form of assistance. This is huge, y'all. So I use a 3-step framework for this. It's called Stop, Snap, Switch. I personally use a bead bracelet strung on elastic because I like pretty things. And when a negative thought creeps its way in, you want to stop what you're doing because you've identified that pattern. Now you want to keep it from growing, right? So you're going to snap that bracelet on your wrist. That way you've halted its momentum. Now you will replace that negative limiting belief with a positive, progressive one and switch it to your other wrist. You have now broken the pattern. You see, you develop a new pattern for dealing with the problems that pop up in your life by switching your perspective. Each situation is a worthy opponent because everything is a growth opportunity. It's a blessing, even if it is in disguise. And it is a positive moment because everything in life has a silver lining. I don't care what you say, it's the truth. Our perception is our guiding light for our emotions. Your woe is me attitude, well, that's just your point of view, honey. We all experience both good and bad things. How we choose to react to them, that is our choice. It's that free will that we all possess. And my grandmother and I, we were pretty close. And every time I ever felt down about anything, she was right there to comfort me. But it's not really in the way that you would think, right? You see, my grandmother had this gift for finding beauty in every single thing because she believed that everything that happened in our lives was a gift from God. Sometimes you just had to look a little harder than others. So a fender bender, well, honey, that's a blessing because it wasn't a fatal crash. You're drawing a butterfly that wasn't exactly like the photograph. That is proof that it is an authentic, original masterpiece. You see, she taught me that all clouds have a silver lining. Even if you have to take a step back to take a look at them. It's about changing your perspective and creating hope. And this fundamental practice literally changed me forever. And it put me on a never-ending evolution. Y'all, I love the never-ending story. Y'all ever seen it? Well, as kids, we got PTSD from the trauma of that horse sinking to his death in a swamp and facing the ultimate fear to be invisible, to be a nobody, to not matter, lack meaning or purpose, to be nothing. What a sobering thought, right? I mean, why in the world would anyone have such a fond connection to this horror flick? Well, that's because it appeals to all aspects of childlike imagination, and it takes us on a journey of self-actualization. It is a story within a story that demonstrates the power of belief and its role in creation. We identify our struggle, and we have to look within to be accountable for standing in our own damn way. The choice is ours to remain hopeless, or we can find a solution among the infinite possibilities. We learn that ours is a never-ending story. Your elevation evolution can only be detoured if you give in to fear. And fear is one of those ugly little boogers that manifests itself as a barrier that we have to face in life. Did you know that it only takes one barrier, one fear to stop you on your journey? Absolute truth. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people wasn't whether or not they faced a fear. It's about perception. And it's just like my grandmother's silver linings. Successful people learn how to maneuver around the barrier from someone who has already paved the way. So don't let fear stop you in your tracks, honey. This is the way to your elevation evolution. This is the road. Those who came before you had to take this same trail. And just beyond your reach is the end result. You look down that path and you see one of those big blinking arrow signs that says, "Beware, this road has been booby trapped." Oh my Lord, any of my other Indiana Jones fans out there know that booby traps are not your friends. Those are the fears. And as you build your confidence, rejection is going to probably come along. And if you follow your frameworks and steady the course, you will have the motivation, strength, and power to handle it and use it as a learning opportunity to continue your growth. Listen, there's going to be things that are going to go wrong if you trigger a booby trap. Real question. How do you get down the path without setting them off? So here's your rules. There is the end result. This is the road. It has been booby-trapped. So do you make it to the end, or are you going to simply remain in place? Because right now it is decision time. This is the road, the process, the framework. Just follow in the footsteps. You've got to avoid the traps and continue on the path successfully. Know this, booby traps will never be removed. Not going to happen. There has never been an opportunity where it didn't have something that could go wrong. Those who never reach success think, oh, well, it's perfectly logical if I'm just going to sit right here and I'm going to wait until the risks are gone. Please. Risk is in everything in life. No one said it's going to be easy, y'all. So you're going to learn where the booby traps are, step where they are not. And as you learn where not to step from your mentor, you begin to walk the path on your own. Then you become the mentor for someone else, using your stories to illustrate the experiences that taught you the frameworks to achieve your goals. You see, your elevation evolution isn't about mastering individual frameworks and moving on to the next. No, it's about using them together to ease your journey and catapult your trajectory. You must have a clear understanding of where you want to be. Use those power pivots to replace any of the false beliefs with positive, factual ones. Appreciate the silver linings and acclimate to your new emotional comfort levels. It is my wish that you move forward and implement these frameworks using perfect practice. Use your experiences as part of the tales that you share when you become the mentor. So tell me, what is your never-ending story of elevation evolution?
Cheyenne.
Yes. Thank you.
I wish you could have seen at the very beginning of your wonderful talk when you said, I was doing that.
Good. That's the idea.
I was in it with you. What a practical, energetic, logical approach to being in control of your own life.
Yes.
And so many times it comes down to it's your choice.
It is.
It's your choice. And I've always been kind of a fearless person, a risk taker. And I'm so glad that you brought that in to say that. And you know what? Life could kind of be dull a little bit if you don't take certain risks.
It can. And a lot of people think that, that there's some people that want to stay on the side. And a lot of people that have a plan B, a backup plan. And they're like, well, I'll only go halfway in, or I'll only do something partly. I have this on the side. It can go not just with your own emotional home or anything, but even like with business. I mean, this can transcend across everything. But people that want to even make the jump in businesses, like entrepreneurs, and they don't want to leave their 9 to 5. They're scared to make that leap, and they don't understand that you've got to just go. It's go big or go home. And everything in life, it's go big or go home. And that's one of my biggest mottos. It's what we tell our clients. It's what I talk about in the books. It's what we talk about on stage. You don't leave anything behind. Put it all in or nothing. So
right. You said plan B. It reminded me that one of my nephews was at that critical point in life, had graduated college, planning his career, and he was sharing what his plan was.
Right.
And someone near and dear to him said, "But what's your plan B?"
Oh.
And he said, "I don't have a plan B."
Oh, good for him.
He said, right? He
Yes.
said, having a plan B weakens plan A.
It does.
It does. And it took me, I thought, because you kind of grow up, well, what's plan B? Like listen, I guess anytime the odds are always 50-50. And if you have a 50-50 chance, I'll always, not that I'm a betting person, but I'll always roll the dice on myself if there's a 50-50 chance.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't work out for you, you will find, if you accept and look for it, there will be a silver lining in what we will call a cloud, meaning that it didn't work out quite as well as you thought it would. You lived with disappointment. You may have felt, failure, which we don't like that word, but there was a lesson to be learned. That's the silver lining.
Yeah, well, and another one that a lot of people don't think of is that sometimes the goal that you have, and that's something that the big dream, the big picture that you think, this driving thing, like, oh, that is the end thing that I'm really shooting for, and it bottoms out. You don't achieve it. However, another opportunity opens up and it presents itself, and it ends up being really what you were wanting and the better path to what you're wanting. So you're still getting to that end result, but it's the better path. But had you had a plan B, had you not been all in and thinking, well, I've got to go back, I got to pull back. The whole point is thinking that I can never go back. I can never go back. I have to always push forward. I'm always going to be elevating. I can never go back down the hill. I have to always go back up. It's always climbing. So that's,
yeah. And that's growth. That's the daily path. I always say it's the 4-letter word called life that we're supposed to be on and growing. And as you said, if we're not growing, we're dying.
We are.
My God, I took so many notes. I loved your story about the elephants, because I don't know anybody who doesn't love elephants. They are just so magnificently created. And we do know that they have that familial bond among them, that they mourn when they lose one of their pack. And they're very intelligent animals.
Yes.
And truly feel pain.
They do.
And
their gift for empathy is the gift for empathy, because it's not just feeling pain, like as in they felt the loss, but if they feel empathy for others, like other elephants or other animals, they feel empathy for humans. They feel empathy. They have the same capacity that we do, where they put their feelings off on, they'll project it on something else. Like, oh, that hurts me. I feel for you too. And it's they're amazing creatures, but that's why I feel like this connection with them. I love elephants. I really do. So.
Yeah. 2 of my nieces traveled to the other side of the world to go on an adventure with elephants.
Oh, how exciting.
It was amazing. They got to be right up there. They bathed them. And you could see the elephants responding to the touch, the feel. They had no fear. I mean, because these are pretty large animals, right?
Yeah.
And they had just the most wonderful, wonderful experience with the elephants. So I'm so glad that you brought that. I love the thermostat war thing, because that is something that I think we could all relate to. But your metaphoric analogy using that about adjusting by a couple of degrees at a time.
Yeah.
That you can acclimate. You can become comfortable in a different zone, be it the temperature or a job or a plan that you have. So it's not always about winning the 68 or the 72 degrees. It's about sometimes compromise and say that we can coexist and we can acclimate and be comfortable and continue to work together.
And it's about pushing yourself to that next level. And that's kind of the whole thing with being in your comfort level. And we had talked about that a little bit before I spoke about how a lot of people who are in abusive circumstances, or people who get stuck in general, they feel like they can't get out of that rut. And it's because it's become a cyclical pattern, and it's because it's where they're comfortable. Even if it's not a happy place, comfort doesn't mean happy. It just means it means it's what you're used to. It's habitual. It's a pattern. That's what comfort is. A lot of people misinterpret that as happiness, joy, and all that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that. For some people, that comfort level happens to be a state of straight misery. And it's just this rut that they're just stuck in, and they're just going about and about and about. And what they don't understand is if they'll just push themselves up, and it's uncomfortable as could be. But if they just push it, they're going to acclimate there, and then this is their new home.
Right.
And
right.
then keep pushing and keep pushing and then keep pushing. And then that's how you grow. That's all you have to do. It's just a step at a time.
And if you just take one step at a time, you can get to anywhere you want to go. You don't get there in leaps and bounds, but
Right.
you can get there one step at a time and keep moving forward. You know what the sad thing about that, as you were saying that, Cheyenne, was that if you allow yourself to be in that rut, it's almost like you have no expectation or anticipation that it could get better. And my fear for some people is that you allow yourself to stay there because you think that's all you deserve.
Well, I was in that situation. I was that person. And for the longest time, and I'll actually say this, when I was at my bottom, I truly believed that that God had put me here to be the whipping boy, that was my purpose in life, was to be a whipping boy, and that it would never be any better. I should have died numerous times over. I had been shot at. I had been, it was attempted manslaughter multiple times, but I kept coming back, and I kept living, and I kept surviving. And it's not just emotional abuse, it was physical, it was everything. But we won't get into that because my story doesn't matter anymore, because again, I've already elevated past that. I am not a survivor. I live at an elevated level. But the fact is that I know that if I can transcend that, anyone else can transcend that, because I truly believed that. Because my grandmother used to tell me all the time, God doesn't give you shit that you can't handle. She didn't use shit though. But she would never cuss, but I do. But no, she used to tell me all the time. She used to tell me that you're not ever given anything that you can't handle. And I do believe that my purpose on this planet now, it's not that I'm the whipping boy. I am strong enough that I can handle not only everything that was mine, but I can handle what is somebody else's until they can figure out that they have their own strength. And then you can, I'm there with you to go guide you on your path. But until you find your voice, I got you. I'm tough enough and I can hold it.
Oh, you are tough enough, girl. You definitely are tough enough. And I loved your story about your grandmother with the smoking. A real Texan, huh?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, a real Texan grandma. You are amazing. And the limiting beliefs that are very easy for all of us to have, they can easily become not reasons, but excuses. Mm-hmm. And I have coached many people, and that is a repeating phrase that, whether you say it out loud, it's like, why do you only want that much for yourself? Why do you think that's all you deserve? Why is that the only thing you expect of yourself, when really you can do, be, and have so much more? And it's not about the stuff. It's about having the joy, the happiness, right, the personal fulfillment, while we're here, that we have lived the best life that we can. Yes. And in so doing, we have probably had positive effects on others as well.
Right. Well, and for so many, those limiting beliefs, I like to describe them. I'm a very visual person, obviously. But in my mind, I envision thoughts that go past, like flying, that it's like shooting stars almost, that go shoom, 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 like flying back and forth in my mind. It's like all these different movies that are playing all at one time. The crazy thing about limiting beliefs, your false beliefs, is that they are what I call attention-seeking hoes. I mean, they are so entitled. They're wearing like garb from the 80s. There's disco balls. They've got, flashing lights. They're carrying boom boxes. They're so loud and they're so obnoxious. And they're just screaming at you all the time. all the ones that are your positive thoughts, the ones that they were brought up correct. They have Southern manners. They know how to say please and thank you, and they are not screaming with megaphones. They are walking around going after you, after you. You know, they have manners. So it's no wonder that you have these negative thoughts that you're constantly hearing, because they don't have manners. So we have to be able to sit there and you give it the attention, you hear it, but you have to break that pattern. And once you break the pattern, people have to understand those thoughts are never going to go away. That's why hurtful words are one of the worst things that people can do. Verbal abuse is one of the worst things. That's why it's so important to teach children. You don't say hateful crap to the other kids or anything, because that stuff sticks. It stays with people. You know, parents should not be, you know, just hateful on their kids. You know, you don't do that with friends. You don't do that with your significant other. Nothing. You know, those things, they can't go away. It doesn't matter. And what a lot of people don't understand is, for one ugly thought, one ugly statement, it takes 3 positives to even try to level them out. And that's because that one is so obnoxious. But once you can break it, once you identify you aren't real, you're just loud and ugly, you got it. You know, you're gonna have to compartmentalize them. However you do it in your own head. I have a filing box in mine. I have a filing system, and they get compartmentalized so that they can go back and just live in their little hole. They don't need to be coming back out. And if every once in a while they want to come back out, and I'm like, oh, no, you need to go back on back into your hole. You don't belong out here. Because sometimes that happens, even to the best of us.
Sure. And as you say, it's because the negative, and it's human nature, negative news travels faster than positive news.
It does.
People go out of their way, very sad, people go out of their way to share negative feelings and thoughts more than they do to go share positive. And that's just the human condition. So permitting people to say that, it's really more of a judgment on them than it is on you.
It is.
It's like, where is that coming from? And why do you have it in you? And why do you feel the right and the need to push it out to me? But you don't have to accept it, because you said it is about choice. It is about choice. And that person really, I think, and listen, I've been told, take off the rose-colored glasses, Beth, but I really believe when people comport themselves that way, they're actually asking for help.
They are. And one of it's funny that you mentioned that, because the whole human condition, if you think about it, when we're born, well, let me back up. There's only 2 things in the world that humans are chasing, right? Or moving towards. And you're either on a path that you're moving away from pain, or you're on a path that you are moving towards pleasure, right? It's one or the other. There's no in between on this. So when we're born, we haven't been touched yet by the sins and pains and everything else. So it's towards pleasure. Then the outside world starts to make a mark. And just like you had said, human condition. It's just like, you know, it's just like how you see people wanting to discipline a dog or rub a nose in it or whatever. You know, it's that kind of thing. We learn, oh, I don't like this. So we start learning to go away from pain. We want to be away. I don't want to feel this way anymore. So we are conditioned to start going away from pain. So part of what I do is that we want to get back on that path where you're going back towards pleasure. You want to be able to seek that way. You want to transition your mind frame where you're not always going with the negative thoughts, because negative goes towards pain. You want to go to the positive where you're always seeking the pleasure. And if you can get back into that mind frame, it's that where focus goes, energy flows. It's that whole thought process. So if you whatever you are thinking about, that is what you're going to see and what you're going to find.
Yes. And because someone else thinks it about you doesn't make it so.
Right.
And so that again is the choice. I want to just let our viewers and listeners know that aside from your personal experiences, which are always so important
Mhm.
in how we grow and change and find our own silver linings, I want everyone to know that in addition to that, you have 15 years of psychotherapeutic training.
Yes, yes. I went through 15 years of psychotherapeutic training. Not as a licensed therapist. I didn't go that route. It's not something I'm interested in because for me personally, that's not really what works for this. And then I have over a decade worth of following experts in this specific industry and learning from the mentors in these fields. So
Right. So I said that because I want people to know that aside from going what sounds like some challenging times in your own life. I mean, my gosh, you said multiple homicide attacks, but I can't even imagine that. But that you are the real deal. And I want to share now with viewers and listeners how they can be in touch with you. And if you go right here to this link, you can connect with Cheyenne, who clearly knows her stuff. And I think what's more important just than the book learning and going and getting licensed and certified and everything, you've lived it.
yes,
You've lived. I also want to say you're very much your granddaughter's child in that sense. I think you must take after your grandma. God bless her.
I do.
You do, clearly. I love that. So I just wanted people to know that this is the beginning of a potential relationship with Cheyenne and all that she can help to bring into your life. When we stop the B.E.P talks, it's your opportunity to begin an engagement with Cheyenne. And in engaging with Cheyenne, understand that it's about engaging with your own life. And it's about recognizing the opportunities that you have to claim it back if you're really that far down the road, or even just to take one more step to make it a little bit better, or to learn something about how you might be able to help someone else to do the same thing. So all you need to do is click there and be in touch with the fabulous Cheyenne M'Dee. I thank you so much, Cheyenne, for being on B.E.P Talks today. You are an absolute delight. And as I say to all of our viewers all the time, bring your story to B.E.P Talks. We all have stories. We all have our beliefs, our experiences, and our passions to share. So just go to beptalks.com for more information about that. And as we always say, may the best always be yet to come. So until we talk again, we'll say bye for now. And again, thank you so much, Cheyenne, for being our guest.